This week on Dance of Joy, we talk about moonlighting, gaslighting, and building ledges that grow overnight. All that and more as we watch Season 3, Episode 12 of our favorite 80s hit sitcom, Perfect Strangers. Hello and welcome to Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast. My name is Sophia. I'm one of your hosts, and joining me, as always, is my co-host and my brother. What's up, Imran?
How's it going, Sophia? I'm glad I'm here. I'm surprised I'm here. Had a little incident here at the house. I locked myself out of my podcast office.
Oh, no.
I had to go around and crawl in through the window and jimmy the window open. It looked totally sketchy from the outside.
Totally sketchy, but very appropriate for today's episode of Perfect Strangers.
Also, none of that really happened.
Of course not. You know
Right.
You have spare keys downstairs.
We're creating fiction here, listener. It's a theater of the mind, you know.
Theater. Okay, today we are talking about Perfect Strangers, episode 12 of season 3, and the episode is called The Break-In.
Simple, straightforward title there. This time, The Break-In. In the TV guide, if you cracked that open back in 1987, you would have read the description which says Larry and Balky find themselves out on a ledge after breaking into the publisher's office to retrieve Larry's irreverent news article mistakenly left on the publisher's desk. Love this setup.
There's a lot going on there. A lot going on.
Love this setup. Of course, starring the hilarious Bronson Pinchot as Balky and Markland Baker as Larry, and a bunch of great guest casts.
Yes, which we'll get to as we go through the episode. This episode aired on December 9th, 1987. Act 1, let's get into it. We start at the Chicago Chronicle in the basement where we know that Larry and Balky both work. And of course, we need a quick opening joke to get the laughter flowing. So the first thing we see is the elevator. We hear the elevator bell ding. The doors open, and inside the elevator are Harriet and Balky, but you can only see them from like thigh up. The elevator has gone down a little too far past the floor.
Missed the mark there.
Right. And
What's
Harriet
happening?
says to Balky, you're getting better, baby. You'll get the hang of it.
Oh, she let Balky run the elevator.
Yeah,
That's
Balky's
fun.
learning to run the elevator, which might sound like a very strange thing to some of our younger listeners, even to me. I don't think I've ever seen a manually run elevator like that, but it was a thing.
Now you can press the buttons yourself. It's very convenient.
Yeah, Harriet would be out of a job now. There are no
Unfortunately.
elevator operators really anymore.
And this whole time in the beginning, we see Larry typing away a story at his desk, but he's not just typing. He's typing and laughing to himself.
And how does he sound when he's laughing?
Giggling. And he's typing. He's like, yes, these little Twitter bird laughters are coming out every so often at his desk, and it catches Balky's attention to the point where Balky comes over and kneels down and starts laughing, and then just goes, "What are we laughing at?"
So Larry tells Balky that he had a very frustrating day covering a stupid dog show. So to blow off some steam, he wrote like a jokey satire article about the dog show, and he reads it out loud to Balky. And what he reads, he's like, "Listen to this." And he goes, "Society," and what he reads is like full of like really corny puns.
Yes, it's very punny and cliche.
A little
yes. Hacky humor,
like
you would call.
punching down, punching up, punching down. I don't know, but this is what he wrote. Society came out on all fours today at the 5th annual Pedigree Dog Show, and then there's a laugh about coming out on all fours. I don't even know what that phrase is that he makes a pun out of. Anyway, and then he laughs at this line. The audience laughs. Then he continues. Industrialist Henry Fryer bragged that his dog was cheaper than his wife.
Whoa.
The license was less, and the dog came with a fur coat.
I mean, that's
ching.
kind of a funny line there.
That's
The dog
funny.
came with the fur coat.
And Larry's like laughing and
He's
cracking
laughing way
himself
too hard
up.
at his jokes. Yes.
Balky's not laughing. He's actually a little bit shocked
Yes.
On his face. And Larry's like, wait, there's more. And he continues. Socialite Annabelle Eastrick is so fat that when she bent over to pet her dog, there were reports of a lunar eclipse. Ouch, Larry.
Okay, we're just making fat jokes now. Here, Larry.
That's just mean. Although he is cracking himself up. He's laughing. He looks up and Balky's just staring at him. And Larry, like, this was great facial expression acting from Mark Lynn Baker. He's like laughing, and then he goes to this straight concerned face when he looks at them.
Then he goes, and it stops real quick.
Yeah.
Look, and when he says she was so fat, you see Balky's eyes like kind of react. He's like wow.
Appalled.
But wait,
yeah.
this is, satire. You had the National Lampoons, you had Mad Magazine. He wrote an Onion article, essentially, here before the Onion. But of course, satire was around and very popular. And it was kind of like this. It was cheap and it was naughty and it was, meant to be dirty.
But Balky doesn't know any of this, and he's just shocked. He's like appalled because to Balky, he's just hearing a bunch of mean jokes that could hurt people's feelings.
Absolutely.
And he calls him out. He calls Larry out, and he said, on Mipos, we have a saying. Okay? And he says, Ifi bigi hoch padui, och hoch bidi bad sticky. And he like gestures wiping something off his face.
Yep.
And of course, he looks at Larry and he goes, enough said? And Larry's like,
not quite enough.
Not quite enough. No. So then we get a translation. It says, if you spit into a windstorm, you'd better carry an umbrella. Which all makes sense.
Yeah, that's a wise saying.
Come back to, spit in your face. And Larry says, don't worry, I'm not a big spitter. Which is funny because, like, Balky takes that as Larry interpreting this.
And Larry's taking it literally
poetic
now.
saying, literally.
Yeah.
And so he further explains, no, cousin, it means if you say something cruel about someone, it might come back to haunt you. I think it's funny he had to explain that, and Larry took it literally.
I know.
Anyway.
This is another role reversal.
It's like a role reversal, yeah.
Like in Future Shock. But then Larry trying to explain this kind of humor to Balky. He goes, Balky, people pay big bucks to go to Las Vegas so that Joan Rivers or Don Rickles can insult them in front of their loved ones. And yes, insult comedy is quite hilarious and quite enjoyable.
And both of these names, Joan Rivers and Don Rickles, were very popular American comedians.
Yes, they have a history.
Of an earlier era. Both who are known for punching up at celebrities and politicians. Don Rickles was especially known for his insult comedy.
Don Rickles, when he would roast Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show, unbelievably funny. And he'd keep it clean and just like really sharp and mean and bitter. And Joan Rivers, again, these are staples of American comedy right
so
here.
highly recommend. There are actually a lot of YouTubes of Don Rickles on The Carson Show from the 80s. Definitely go watch those.
If you've never experienced Don Rickles, you got to look up Don Rickles. It's a from another time.
Yes.
But he kept this up late into his life, like when he was in his 80s
both of these
and
comedians,
90s.
rest in peace, are not with us anymore.
Oh, yeah, Joan died recently too, didn't she? Just a few years ago. Joan Rivers was amazing too. Yeah, both of them. Anyways.
And she was pioneering because she was one of the early women comedians.
And you learn in that CNN History of Late Night how she got shafted. From hosting The Tonight Show. And it made me cry. It was so devastating. I was like, oh my God, Johnny, I can't believe you did that to your buddy Joe. Anyway,
Balky hears Larry say Don Rickles, and he gets so excited because, quote, Don Rickles is Wayne Newton's favorite comedian.
Of course, Wayne Newton is Mipos' number one celebrity.
And yes. And Larry's like, yes. And I hear that Wayne loves it when Don makes fun of his mustache, which is his way of like convincing Balky that insult comedy is okay.
Yeah.
And he tells Balky that like the jokes that he wrote about the dog show are the same kind of thing as Don Rickles making fun of Wayne Newton. And so Balky gets super excited. He's like, well, in that case, people are going to love reading your article about the dog show in the newspaper. And Larry's like, no. These are jokes. They're not going in the newspaper. The real article is right here. And he points to a manila envelope on his desk.
This is an important detail.
That's what, and he points to, it's a manila envelope sitting on one side of his desk.
On the left side of his desk, up against the lamp.
He's like, that is the real article, and that's the one that's going in the newspaper.
Gotcha.
And then Balky's like, okay, well, can we send the joke article to Wayne? And Larry said no, he's going to send it to his brother Billy, whom we've heard about before.
He's always trying to impress Billy.
I think he'll get a kick out of it. And then Balky says, okay, I'll just send Wayne the peanut brittle like I do every month. A cute little detail we learned.
He sends Wayne Newton peanut brittle every month?
Every month.
Wow. Wayne must think he's a psycho.
Every month. So then they're having this casual conversation. It's important to note during the next couple of lines that come now, Larry very casually, slickly, he's got the joke article in his hand. He puts it into an identical manila envelope, the same kind, and he very deftly and casually just swaps the locations of the two envelopes on his desk.
Wait a minute.
So that the joke article is in the spot where he had pointed out the real article was, and he puts the real article on the other side of his desk.
Oh,
which is
boy.
like, why? Why would you do that?
He just pointed to that article.
Do you not have a pencil or a pen to label these articles?
Another color. Maybe.
Do you not have a different kind of envelope? Maybe you can fold one.
Look, let's just move ahead.
Make it look different. Yes.
Knowing that everything that happens from now on is entirely Larry Appleton's fault.
Yes, that is a very important detail to keep in mind.
Okay, gotcha. Stupid Larry. So, Balky now, this is great. He gets his turn. He's like, I'm going to try American humor, cousin.
Yes.
And he goes, okay. And he goes, well, cousin, I guess when they were handing out the lips, you only got one. Which I love anytime they make fun of Mark Baker's lips.
And Balky does that whole, looking up, where do I come up with them type of laugh and get his own jokes, slapping his leg.
Balky goes, cousin, why are you not laughing? And Larry goes, it's hard to laugh with one lip. Great callback. Great comeback there by Larry.
The elevator door opens again. Harriet steps out. She's doing a crossword puzzle in her hand. She's so, nonchalant about her job or bored that she's, also doing a crossword puzzle with a pencil. And behind her steps out from the elevator this raggedy looking disheveled man. He's grasping all these papers in a briefcase, hugging them to his chest, and he's shuffling, right? He's not even walking. He's shuffling. His face looks a little dazed. And Harriet says, Frank, what's a 5-letter word for life? There's a beat, and Frank just goes, hell.
Oh my. Also, that's only 4 letters, Frank.
Right. And then he shuffles off toward the garage.
Oh, man.
In a daze. And this is just a sad and sorry looking man. And then Harriet sort of does the exposition for us all to know that Frank is burned out. He's been working the crime beat too long.
Crime beat.
And then Balky and Larry kind of look concerned. They say they've never seen Frank look so down before.
Frank didn't look good at all.
No,
I was concerned for him also as he shuffled past into the garage. But then just then, Mr. Burns walks by. He goes, Appleton. And he tells Larry, the publisher, Mr. Wainwright, wants to see Larry's article on the dog show because it was sponsored by the Wainwright Kennel Club. So obviously he wants to know what this writer is going to write about his dog show. And this gets Larry very excited that the publisher wants to see something he wrote. That's a big deal.
Could be his big break. And Mr. Burns, I'm just they never really tell us. I guess it was in a previous episode. He's like the editor or something.
He is the editor of the paper
under
Mr.
the
Burns.
publisher.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So Larry's all excited. This could be his big deal. And Mr. Burns also gives him another on the spot assignment. So he is rushing around, and in his rush, he asks Balky if Balky could take his dog show article up to put it on the publisher's desk because the publisher wants to read it in the morning. And he says to Balky, it's in the envelope on my desk.
Uh-oh.
And Balky's like, sure, okay. He empties his mail basket. He goes to Larry's desk, and he instinctually does the right thing. He grabs the envelope from the location that Larry first pointed out the real article where it was. Yeah. He grabs it, and then he starts to walk away, and then he sees the other manila envelope on the other side of the desk, and he stops to think twice, and he's a little bit confused, and then he just shrugs and keeps the one that he initially picked up, which should have been...
Can't blame him at all. You can't open it up and look at it. Maybe he should have opened it up and checked, but...
In retrospect, I'm either Larry should have labeled them or used different envelopes,
not Balky's
or not switched the places, or Balky should have checked
No, it's not Balky.
context.
It's not Balky's fault. He clearly is like, this is the article, and that was the one Balky took. Not his fault.
Right, because he didn't. Because that's where Larry pointed out the real article was.
Oh boy, what's going to happen? Well, during the next
Hilarity
scene,
will ensue.
hilarity will ensue as we fade to the next scene later that evening. In the apartment, the cousins are there with Jennifer and Marianne. And they're all sitting on the couch, and they just finished watching an episode of Moonlighting, very meta, ABC, that actually followed Perfect Strangers in real time.
We've mentioned before, it was a show that came on the same night, starring Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd.
And it was a very big show.
Big show in the 80s.
Balky goes, I love Moonlighting. Don't they have witty dialogue? He goes, I love when they just say, you do, I do, you do, I do. How do they come up with that stuff? It's so funny. Because they did that all the time. This little will they, won't they tension back and forth. They're very good at it, Bruce Willis.
Oh, the other thing to point out about the Moonlighting thing is that Marklin Baker was a guest on Moonlighting, had like a cameo on Moonlighting before Perfect Strangers.
That's how they found him for the show. I remember we talked about.
So that's like a funny thing when they keep referring to Moonlighting. Anyway, Balky's like, oh, they're so funny. But you know who else is funny? This guy over here. And he tells the girls that Larry wrote something really funny today, and Larry's all proud of himself, and he gets up to go get his joke article because he's going to read it to them. And while he's doing that, in the meantime, Balky tries more American humor. And he says, Marianne, is that your hair, or did your head just explode?
Oh, no.
He cracks himself up. He starts laughing, but then Marianne and Jennifer are just staring at him.
She goes, that's my hair.
Like, it's my hair.
Oh, God. I feel so bad for Balky. He thinks he's being funny, and he's just devastating insults. It's great.
Yeah, so the girls were not laughing. Marianne just was like, it's my hair. And then Larry's like, he's still getting the hang of it.
But Larry has his article now, and he's all proud and ready to read it. He's like, it's hysterical, even if I do say so myself. So he pulls out the paper and starts to read over the article and starts to laugh in anticipation, but then suddenly, he's not laughing anymore. As he looks over the article, his face gets really serious, and then he starts to gag a little bit. As Jennifer gets up and takes the paper from Larry and starts reading out loud this article, and that's when we realize, this is the real article,
yes.
That he wrote, which means the joke article is now on the publisher's desk. And Balky goes, oh boy, is he in for a chuckle and a half? He doesn't get it.
Yeah.
A chuckle. He doesn't get it. And Jennifer at that point notices Larry is really mad. And she goes to Marianne. He's like, why do we, let's go, Marianne. And Marianne's like, why do we have to go? I want to find out who won the dog show. As Jennifer
Marianne
pulls
always has these great lines as they're exiting.
She's oblivious to the situation, and she has a great little stinger there.
So the girls leave, and Larry starts advancing on Balky. He grabs him by the shirt. He backs him against the couch, and he goes, how could you do this? How could you take the wrong article to the publisher?
Oh, boy, Larry Appleton.
Don't you ever read the mail before you deliver it? Oh, my gosh. He's blaming Balky.
And he's forcing him to break the law also by reading other people's mail. Great.
Yeah, and Balky, of course, explains mailmen don't read other people's mail unless it's a postcard, then we can't help it.
I don't blame him for the postcard. But yeah, when he blamed Balky, I was like, oh my God, Appleton.
Larry's the one who, for no reason, switched the spots of the envelopes. What are you doing?
But Larry quickly realizes that it is his fault. He goes, why am I blaming you? I should have known that if I wrote 2 articles, one would fall into the wrong hands. Appleton's law. Yeah, it's bad Appleton luck.
Definitely.
And he's freaking out because, he insulted the publisher, his dog show. He insulted the publisher's dog show and the publisher in the article. But Balky's confused. He goes, cousin, are insults funny or no? You told me they were funny. And Larry's like, if you insult your boss, it's not. And Balky feels validated because that Meepo saying is now true. Because Balky goes, you better get out your umbrella because the spit's gonna hit the fan.
I love that. I love that.
The second time they used this reference without replacing the excrement in the reference. Remember before it was
yes.
with
Spit's gonna hit the fan.
with that one lady who worked there. The sexual harassment episode.
Maybe spit is the Meposian version of the excrement that hits the fan.
Oh, spit
in our culture. Yeah. So Larry is now like full on panicking. He says, "What am I going to do?" And then Balky's like, "What are you going to do? What am I going to do? I just told Marianne that her head exploded." All because of Larry.
He almost boxes his ears. Do you see that move? He's like, that would have hurt if he had connected, but he doesn't get close.
But Larry, of course, dismisses Balky's problem because Larry's Larry. And he says that he has a bigger problem because his job is in jeopardy, to which Balky says, "Oh, I love that show."
It's not helping Balky. It's funny. So they sit on the couch and Larry laments that the publisher would have loved the real article. Then he gets an idea suddenly, like you could almost see a light bulb blow up over his head, and he stares at Balky, wide-eyed, determined, devious look. The plan he comes up with is they have to break into the publisher's office and switch the articles. But Balky, of course, is a law-abiding citizen, and he's like, no. I'm not breaking
knows Larry well enough right now to immediately be like, "No, I'm not doing this. It's not going to end well."
So he goes, let me rephrase that. We have to go into the publisher's office, Balky. After all, you delivered the wrong mail, didn't you? And it's your duty to deliver the right mail, isn't it? Yes. Isn't it? And Balky goes, yes. Anything less would be, and then I love this, Larry is just pouring it out. He goes, anything less would be irresponsible. Just repeating it like it's an announcer. And Balky goes, I don't want to be irresponsible. And Larry's like, of course you don't. Of course. And now Balky's going, what am I going to do? And then Larry goes, Balky, you'll have to go down to the publisher's office and switch the articles. And Balky's like, will you go with me? And he goes, Larry goes, yes, I'll go with you, of course.
So Larry's totally gaslighting him. Oh my God,
it's amazing.
Being manipulative. So manipulative.
Almost like not sneaky, a good friend
even when it's like all his fault. It's so manipulative.
You're not being a good friend here, Larry Appleton, as we come to the end of Act 1. I want to let the listener know, if you haven't joined our Facebook group, you should. Because why? Because you can be a part of our conversation every episode, our recaps. And the
conversations are getting hot in that group.
They are. There's some great conversations per episode because I will post a thread of the episode we're recording that week. You can leave your comments, observations, thoughts. We will share it in the show. But then the listeners have continued these conversations and dug in, and it's amazing to watch you guys meet each other and converse and just geek out over perfect strangers. It's amazing.
I feel like some true friendships are being formed in that group. And the reason we post there is because we record a couple weeks in advance. So we want to give everyone a chance to weigh in on the episode we're going to be recording that week. We do have some new members this week.
Get out of the city!
Big welcome to the Facebook group to Maria Khalaf, David Khalaf, and Lauren Miller.
Oh, the Khalafs. Do you think they're brother and sister or married? I wonder.
Well, they're neither of those.
Oh,
because
cousins?
we have a message from Maria Khalaf, and I apologize if we are mispronouncing your last name, but Maria writes, I've started listening to the podcast, and it's very fun to listen to. I became a fan of Perfect Strangers when I saw Bronson Pinchot in Beverly Hills Cop, found the show on Hulu, and watched it with my father.
Aww.
We both love watching it. We've gone through hard times after my mother passed away last year. This show really helped us through those hard times by making us laugh and feel happy. I'm very thankful to discover this show and watching it with my father. Also, I enjoy listening to the podcast.
David is her father.
My best guess is David is her father, but we could be wrong about that. But that is so lovely. Thank you, Maria, for sharing that with us. And I'm so happy that Perfect Strangers has brought you such joy in a difficult time.
Maria and David, welcome to the group. Thanks for listening, and I'm glad that we could provide a little happiness and just a little escape back to 1980s sitcom nostalgia. And Lauren Miller, our other new member, we're going to be hearing a lot about Lauren Miller. Why? Couple of reasons. The first one right now is she let us know on our Facebook group that she has started an Instagram account we have all kind of pitched and talked about, and now it's real. This is wild. We now have an official Larry Duds Instagram
Larry
account.
Duds.
Oh my God.
Amazing.
It's got to get another.
Get out of the city.
What? Look at this thing we're creating. Rainey existed. We found Rainey. Then we have a Dimitri Sheep. We have Larry Duds. We have Balky Duds. We have this show. We have a little Perfect Strangers cottage industry.
Yes.
Being built
Look
right
at
here.
us.
And
We're
you guys
starting a little movement.
You guys
here.
are along for the ride. It's amazing. I love it. I don't know what to say.
So everyone head to Instagram, check out Larry Duds, click like, follow.
Join the Facebook group also. And lots of great Larry Duds to share on Larry Duds Instagram. Act 2, sister. What's happening now?
Act 2. So we start this act with an outside shot of the Chicago Chronicle from a distance, and it pans up to the upper floors, giving us a sense of what's coming. We are going to be far upstairs in the Chicago Chronicle. Then we cut to the inside, and Larry and Balky come out from a stairwell into a hallway. They're like out of breath. They're panting. It appears that they have taken the stairs up 11 floors. And that's because if they took the elevator, someone might have seen them. Larry says to Balky, someone might have seen you and found out you delivered the wrong mail.
Wow.
I'm only trying to protect you.
Wow,
this is why
Larry
he made
Appleton.
them take the stairs. Still gaslighting Balky.
As the definition of gaslighting, and he's not letting up as Balky tries the door to the publisher. They're dressed up in like black hoodies and things. It's kind of funny. Balky tries the door to the publisher's office. Of course, it's locked. And he's like, oh, well, I guess we got to give up and go home. And then Larry stops and he goes, Balky, don't you remember the mailman's oath? Neither rain nor sleet nor locked door shall stay these couriers from the swift execution of their appointed rounds. And Balky's like, oh, yes. And then he goes, locked doors isn't in there. And Larry goes, yes, it's in the second verse. I just lied to him on top of lies.
Yeah, I forgot to say also that when we see that outside establishing shot, it's nighttime. So we know it's like
It is
late at night.
nighttime and they're up in the
after
building.
hours.
What is the real mailman's oath? It's similar, but instead of locked
rain
doors,
nor sleet nor gloom of night.
neither snow nor rain,
nor heat nor gloom of night stays these couriers from the swift completion of their appointed rounds.
Yeah, he got close there, but I loved locked doors.
Locked doors. Very another like nod to Shakespearean language.
You tried to trick Balky. Yeah.
Pronouncing those syllables. So then Balky kind of like catches on to Larry here and figures out what's going on, and he goes, "This is just a hunk, but you know what I think?" Of course, he means hunch.
Yeah. Now we have this is the first Balky reference mess up in Act 2. Like he doesn't do it for
Yes.
It's weird.
Just a hunk, but I think I'm going to start saying that. This is just a hunk, but you know what I think? I think you want to get in there and get your article, and you don't care anything about the mail. And Larry does his scoffing laugh. Yes, you're right.
I love that. It's so funny. He's like, you're right, Bob.
And he's like, look, I'm in deep trouble. I'm going to lose my job if I don't get in there and change these articles. And then he begs Balky to help him. And Balky, of course, agrees because Balky's a
good guy. Yes. He's going to help us.
And then we have a little moonlighting spoof here. And so Balky's like, well, the door is locked. How are we going to get in? And Larry says, well, we'll do what we did on Moonlighting. And Balky says, I don't know what they did on Moonlighting. And Larry says, I do. Balky says, you do? I do. You do? I do. You do. Will you stop it? Larry ends the debate. And what did they do on Moonlighting? Well, they used credit cards, of course, to open locked doors.
Jimmy the door open.
That's what we did in the 80s.
It always works in the movies.
So he pulls out a credit card. He slips it into the door. He tries to like jimmy it open. And then we hear a snap and Larry pulls back out half the credit card.
No.
And he says the half with his name on it is stuck in the door. No. And Balky looks at half the credit card. He goes, maybe you're over your credit limit.
That's a good pun. So now Balky wants to give up again. Obviously, the credit card's stuck in there. Larry's got to get it out. Or
like, well, we got to go home.
Yeah, but Larry's name is now in the door. And then as they're about to leave, Larry looks up and he points out the transom. Now, let's just talk about this word. First of all, I love this word. transom. Doors.
Transom was like a radio term.
Doors used to have that's something else. Transmit. Doors used to have transoms, and I don't know why, but it's a little window above the door that opens. The actual definition: a flat surface forming the stern of a boat.
It's a transom window. So the definition I'm looking at, transom is a strengthening crossbar under the boat one. A strengthening crossbar, in particular, one set above a window or door. So I think transom doesn't actually refer to the window, but it became probably colloquial. And then you have to say transom window.
Transom window, because the transom also is the horizontal beam reinforcing the stern of the boat. I love the word transom, but I always thought it was weird that there's like a little open window, or you lock the door, but there's a little open window right there.
Yeah. And then, I think probably colloquially people just called it transom, but he means transom window.
And you don't see them a lot anymore. They were in really old buildings.
Yeah.
And then I love this little comedy bit. Larry goes, "Balky, give me a boost." And Balky goes, "All right." He puts his hand on his shoulder. He goes, "You're a snappy dresser." So funny.
All right. You're a snappy dresser.
It's a good boost. And then he goes, "No, that's not what I meant, but thank you." he does thank him.
And then we go into a little bit of physical comedy, which is nice and funny. Larry climbs onto Balky's shoulders, literally puts his feet on it. He gets a boost, then he gets on his shoulders, and it's all very comical. Balky's struggling, and he sort of hoists himself through this little window at the top of the door, and Balky pushes him, and then for a little bit he's stuck at his waist,
upside down.
Yeah, upside down. His front half inside the room, his bottom half outside the room. And then he struggles and eventually just falls to the floor on the inside.
Yeah.
And then he stands up on the inside, opens the door. Balky goes in. They turn on the light. Larry very, very deftly picks up the other half of his credit card.
Yeah, that's important.
And they turn on the light. They go to the desk. They're the desk. They find the manila envelope on the publisher's desk, and Larry pulls out the real article. They're just swapping it out. And just as they finish swapping the articles, they hear the elevator bell ding, and they're like, "Oh no, it's the security guard." So they're panicked, and they look at each other, and Larry's under the desk. And they go to hide under the desk. They crawl under the desk, and then the camera pans down, and they both realize, just as we, the audience, realize, there's no front to the desk.
Yeah, it's an open desk. It's an open table.
Oh my God, I laughed so hard at this. I don't know why. This was the funniest part of the whole episode to me, when they're under the desk, and they go, and then they just peer out the other side. I just thought that was so, so funny. I don't know why. For me, this was the thing from this episode that made me laugh so hard. And so they get up again, and as they get up again and they're panicking, we hear footsteps approaching. Oh no, where are they going to hide? The next thing we see is the security guard in the hallway, and he notices that the door to the publisher's office is a little ajar.
Oh yeah, that's suspicious.
So he pushes it open. He doesn't turn on the light, but he shines his flashlight around the office, and he shines it to the bottom of the desk, and there's nobody there. There's no one in the office. Whoa. What happened to Balky and Larry? Where are they? He does notice that the window is slightly open. Then we cut to the outside of the window. Remember, we're up 11 floors.
Yeah.
And we see Larry and Balky on a ledge, just gripping themselves to the side of this building, standing on a ledge. There's wind blowing in their face. It's dark outside. And then...
Well, there's this funny dialogue where Balky's this didn't go as planned. And Larry's it's just a small setback.
Going well.
He goes, it's a small setback.
Yeah, as soon as the guard leaves, we're just going to go back through the window and we'll be fine. And just as he says that, we're still on an outside shot of them. We see from inside the window, the security guard closes the window and locks it. And then we have a very funny exchange, which we are going to do as...
What are we talking about?
A reenactment. So I would like to play Balky in this.
Okie dokie. I will be Larry. We are standing on the ledge outside of the publisher's office, 11
the guard
floors
has
up.
just closed and locked the window.
Yes.
So we are gripping the wall. We're 11 floors up on this tiny ledge. And here we go. That sounded like the guard locked the window.
Balky, tell me the guard didn't lock the window.
The guard didn't lock the window.
Thank God. All right, let's go back in.
We might have a little problem with that.
Why?
Because the guard locked the window.
Bucky, you just told me the guard didn't lock the window.
Well, that is because you told me to tell you the guard didn't lock the window.
Well, why don't we go see if indeed the guard locked the window? And then they both shuffle over carefully, try the window. It doesn't open. And Larry goes, the window is locked.
Perhaps the guard locked it.
Perhaps.
This scene is so funny because in sitcom, we learn, if you study sitcom or whatever, that like repetition is
And
one
rhythm.
of these tools of comedy. And when things repeat a lot like that, it's just something that people will naturally laugh at.
And I just love it. The guard
locked the window. Also, the way they're saying these lines
yeah,
is
it's so
super
funny. Enunciated. And that will take us to the end of Act 2. Listener, if you are enjoying Dance of Joy Pod, if you're excited like every Friday, TGIF, when the show comes out, consider supporting the show. We could use your support that ensures the show keeps going. Visit our website, danceofjoy.com/support. You can buy us a virtual coffee. Click that buy me a coffee button and you can buy a couple of coffees, or you can support us on an ongoing monthly basis and become a buy me a coffee member. We have one, Pam Hitchcock. Thank you very much. And now we have 2 members.
Woohoo!
Shout out, huge thank you to our latest ongoing Buy Me a Coffee supporter member, Lauren Miller. I told you you're going to hear a lot.
Lauren Miller.
From
She's
Lauren
back.
Miller. She's back. She is Larry Duds. She has joined the group, and she is now supporting Dance and Joy podcast on Buy Me a Coffee. She left a comment when she signed up. She says, love what you're doing. I grew up with Perfect Strangers, and to this day, I still love it. It's nice to find other people with the same love.
Oh, thank you so much, Lauren Miller.
Lauren, you get one of these.
Cousins should joke more.
Yes, they should.
Yes, they should, and that's what we're doing.
Thank you so much, Lauren Miller. We will enjoy our coffees.
Be like Lauren, listener. Visit the website, buy us a coffee, and we will appreciate it. It's awesome.
Onward to Act 3. Act 3, and we're still out on the ledge.
Still on the ledge.
And we don't know what to do, how we're going to get back in. The guard has locked the window.
The guard locked the window.
Suddenly we hear sirens below, and Balky gets very excited because he's like, oh, look, there's police and fire trucks. We're saved.
Oh, yay.
And he starts yelling, hello, hello. And Larry stops him and pushes him back against the wall. He says, Balky, if they see us, they'll know we were trying to break in, and then we'll be in big trouble. And Balky just quietly goes, then we'll be in big trouble.
That's a great line.
He says, cousin, we're up to our armpits in sheep dip right now.
Sheep dip. What do you eat that with? Crackers? Like pita chips? Sheep
dip is a fun, like switching of sounds. What do you call that?
Onomatopoeia? No.
Sheep
Hyperbole?
dip and deep ship.
Deep ship.
Which is what we might say in real life, almost.
With one letter changed,
we're
yes.
in deep ship, but they're in sheep dip.
Sheep dip. And then, all of a sudden, someone shuffles around the corner on the ledge outside of the building. Oh my God, it's Frank. The depressed crime beat reporter is out on a ledge. There's a spotlight on him.
Oh no.
Frank yells, get that spotlight off of me or I'll jump. Oh boy, this got really dark all of a sudden. And clearly, Larry and Balky are surprised to see Frank on the ledge. Frank is surprised to see Larry and Balky on the ledge. And Balky asks Frank what he's doing up there. And Frank goes, I don't know. I'm confused. I came out here to think. And Balky goes, well, you picked a dangerous place to think. At which point, Larry has to explain to Balky that Frank came out to think about suicide.
And which really like worries. Balky's like really moved by this. He's like, oh no. So Larry tries to reason with Frank, and he tries to tell him that things can't be that bad. And Frank says, what do you know about it? Life stinks. I see it every day. Assaults, murders. Look. And he points down at the police cars down below. He's like, look, robberies. Like, so,
wait,
which
is
is to say there was a robbery
behind
happening.
them? Yes. While they're looking up at him, somebody's getting robbed behind the cops.
Yes. And he says,
Wow.
nobody cares about anybody.
Jeez.
And so right then, that kind of sets up like the situation. This is what Frank is bothered by. He's had enough. He's done with it, which is very sad. And then suddenly the lights in the office turn on and we see that same security guard and a bunch of cops behind him come to the window. Security guard opens his head, opens the window, sticks his head out. He sees Frank and then he sees Larry and Balky and he's like, what are you guys doing here? And Balky starts to explain the real truth. He's like, well, cousin Larry, and Larry cuts him off. He's like, and does the most Larry thing ever. And he says, isn't it obvious what we're doing out here? We came out here to get our friend off the ledge. And Balky is just disgusted by all these lies that
Balky's like, boy, you don't stop. You just keep going and lying. You don't care.
And Larry's like, not when it comes to saving a friend or helping a friend. Oh my God, Larry.
But then Larry, sincerely, he tries to help Frank. He goes, Frank, don't do this. And Frank goes, leave me alone. And Larry just goes, well, we've done all we can. And starts to move in towards the window.
And he tells Balky, let's let the professionals take over.
I mean, it's reasonable, but they're out there. Come on.
And Balky's like, wait a minute. Like, this time it's Balky who doesn't let Larry, like earlier in the episode, Balky wanted to go home, right? When the door was locked and Larry kept stopping him. No, we have to do this. And now Larry wants to give up and leave. And now Balky's like, nope, we're not doing that. He's like, look, Frank doesn't want to talk to them because Frank is telling them to like get away from the window. He's like, Frank doesn't want to talk to those people, the experts or whatever, the professionals. Maybe he'll talk to us. And Larry's like, I don't know what to say to him. And Balky says, well, maybe I'll think of something. And Larry just says, okay, but be careful. One wrong word and this man's going to jump.
Yikes.
And then they carefully like switch places on the ledge so that Balky gets closer to Frank. And Balky's like, Frank? And then he stops and thinks for a moment. He goes, having a bad day? And Larry just like winces.
Right. You know, it's a good place
cringes.
to start. You know,
Yeah.
you got to start somewhere.
So Larry's like, oh no, he cringes. He's like afraid that Frank is going to jump. And then I think this is where we have lesson time. There's no music, but we fade into the next scene and we're still on the ledge, but it's now early morning. The sun is up. There's like birds chirping, whatever. It's like dawn.
Yeah.
And the three men are still on the ledge. They're sitting now. It's a bit of a wider ledge, I think, now than it was earlier. They're sitting,
hold on. Yes.
right?
No, my question is, what are they sitting on? Because there was barely enough room.
Well, the ledge
to
grew.
stand on the ledge,
Yes,
but now
they're sitting there like swinging their legs.
Yeah, no problem. Just happy-go-lucky.
That's what I noticed. It's a bit of a wider ledge now.
Okay.
Frank's sitting in the middle, Larry and Balky on either side of him. He is showing them photos from his wallet, little wallet-sized photos. We see the security guard kind of like trying to stay awake sitting in the window on the inside, and the cops are still inside as well. And Frank is proudly showing them a picture of Frank Jr., and he's bragging about Frank Jr.'s t-ball skills, and he says, the kid's a natural. To which Balky says, I was a cesarean myself.
Okay, hold on. That is such a funny line. I don't think I've ever heard a C-section joke.
Yeah.
This is a C-section. When have you last time you heard a cesarean joke that was like family friendly?
I see where it came from. It's the play on
the natural
anything
birth,
we know about natural
birth and cesarean birth. But I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. I thought that was brilliant.
Okay,
because
you thought that was funny. I thought the desk bit was so funny.
I was like, they worked in a cesarean joke in like a family friendly show. That's unbelievable. And it's funny.
Very, very witty, very smart.
Larry tells Frank that this doesn't make sense. That Frank is telling him he has a wonderful family. He's one of the most respected journalists in the city. Why would you even think of jumping off a building? And Frank says after 12 years of covering crime, he's sick of it. All he sees are people doing terrible things to each other. I can understand. He can't take it anymore. But then Balky has a great line, tries to reason. He goes, but Frank, if you jump, you'd be doing something terrible to your family. Why don't you just go home and hug your wife and children and be glad that you're not one of the terrible people that you write about? I guess that's the lesson.
I think
it works on Frank, I think, because he's like, I feel so humiliated.
Yeah, he's embarrassed.
He's a little embarrassed.
But he thanks them for staying with him all night. And Larry then, very genuinely suggests to Frank that maybe he should get some help. And Balky says, yeah, because if you come out here next time, we might not be here, which is very logical conclusion. And then Larry's like, how about we go inside? And Frank says, in a minute. And he says, looking off into this like beautiful high up in the city, sunrise. He says, this is the first peaceful morning I've had in 12 years. And then the three of them just kind of sit in silence and taking in the view.
I was also thinking about, how did you sit down and how are you going to get up?
Yeah, how are you going to get up?
The tiny ledge that you now can sit on, apparently.
Well, they can crawl. They're close enough to the window, but like, how did they sit down? Go from standing
without
to sitting?
Falling. How did the ledge get so big? What is happening
The ledge
there?
grew.
Yes, okay, the ledge grew.
Okay, but so then we see them kind of sitting in silence, taking in the view. But of course, like, we can't end the episode on like something so serious and somber.
Yeah.
We need another little joke at the end to go out on a lighter note. So we fade into one more scene for our final bit of laughs. And this scene is back at the apartment. Balky and Larry return from this whole ordeal to the apartment, and take note, they return from a front door, which is to the left of the fireplace again. Now, if you were with us some episodes ago, we talked about at the beginning of this season. Yes.
Yep.
There were 3 episodes recorded
with a
different layout of the apartment, the front door being on the left of the fireplace. And then all of the other episodes are with the front door to the right of the fireplace and the closet opposite Balky's bedroom.
So this is the last episode where we'll see the front door all the way on the left.
Right.
Yeah.
So it must have been recorded earlier.
Yeah. With that other
in this
batch.
setup, the front door's to the left and to the right is a closet. I don't know what's opposite Balky's room, but it's not the closet. Okay, so that's just a note that I noticed because they walked in from a different side. And they're coming back from their ordeal. They're exhausted. They head for their bedrooms. Balky says, I never want to go through that again. Larry says, all I want is a warm bed, a soft pillow, and to put this night behind me. They say goodnight. They go into their separate rooms. As soon as they each shut the door, we hear 2 alarm clocks going off, and then they both come out of their door, and they're like, good morning, cousin. Good morning, Balky.
Morning, cousin. And roll credits.
My hunch is that they just added this final thing just so that they could end an episode on a very serious topic, end it on a lighter note. We needed just like another laugh.
They needed a little tag, to break the tension. Because, I mean, the ending on the ledge would have been weird.
On the ledge, right.
Yeah.
We needed like a tag at the end.
All right, before we dig in to our thoughts, listener, you can get some Dance of Joy swag if you so wish. You want to wear the logo or drink coffee out of a mug that has the logo, or put your stuff in a tote bag with the logo. You can get all this at our TeePublic shop, danceofjoypod.com/shop, where we have lovely designer, comfortable tees and baseball tees and sweatshirts and tank tops and all sorts of fun stuff. Face masks, stickers, pillows. You get something, send us a photo. I want to see you.
We want to see it.
Proudly promoting the show. It's free advertising for us. Selfishly, yes. That's what it is. But you get cool niche stuff as well. danceofjoypod.com/shop.
They are cool items. I might add that my brother and my co-host is a very talented artist and graphic designer. He has designed all of these items himself. It is cool. It's not like a cheesy, like it's worth having, and people will ask you about it and it'll be a conversation piece. Just trust me.
One of these days, I'm going to make some fun t-shirts that we've been talking about. I have several ideas. If you've been listening to the show, they will all get made and you guys are going to love them. Just wait. I don't know when I get some time.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch.
All right, back to the episode.
Would you consider this like an early, very special episode? You know how like on a very special episode of Silver Spoons, I mean, this is dealing with a very heavy topic, much like they did with the sexual harassment episode.
Yeah, it is a heavy topic. I think it's really interesting because a good half of the episode is about American humor and Larry being manipulative and mean and like and yes, I can see that as being a tool to get them onto this ledge, but there was a lot more time spent on it than there should have been if it was just only a tool. There was like a good half the episode in this like process of thinking, teaching Balky about American humor, how it works or doesn't work.
So he's mean-spirited the whole time, but we kind of skipped over a little part where he does break down and apologize, admit, and he starts crying and begging Balky. I feel like there's some redemption. Like, he didn't apologize to him.
because when his job is on the line,
Yeah,
like he's
it's
like,
serious.
I messed up.
Yeah.
I need your help. I'm going to lose my job.
Again, like we said at the very beginning, he switched the stupid envelopes.
Yeah,
I
like,
don't
why did
know
you do
why.
that?
This is his fault anyway. So
But then that, of course, was all in service of getting them to this ledge for this other storyline,
yeah, I like how they
which is
set
the
up
heavy storyline.
Frank in the beginning also, just very quickly. But I don't know. I don't know if you see that. You don't see it happening. Like, it does come out of nowhere, even though they set up Frank. Maybe. I don't know. It's kind of predictable. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. Usually there's like a bigger storyline and like a secondary storyline, but I feel like these two are equal in this episode.
Yeah. Good episode, though. A lot of great facial expressions, a lot of good comedic timing. This is the first time we hear Mr. R.T. Wainwright is the publisher. We hear his name, we see his office, and I guess we're going to actually meet him later. Does he become kind of a semi-regular?
Yep. We will be learning more about Mr. Wainwright as we go on.
And then let's talk about Frank. The guy, Frank, was played by the actor Richard Frank is the guy who's playing Frank Peterson, the guy on the ledge. This is his only appearance in the series. But if you have seen the movie Amadeus, you've seen that movie, right?
Yes.
With Salieri, F. Murray Abraham. Great movie.
Mozart. Yes.
Mozart. Frank, I thought this guy looked a little familiar. He is the priest who Amadeus is telling his life story to the whole movie.
Yeah.
Who listens to him, that's him. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's that guy.
He plays these very somber roles.
Side note, F. Murray Abraham, who plays Salieri, is hilarious. He is in Mythic Quest on Apple TV Plus, still working. That dude is so funny. Yes, F. Murray Abraham, every
How old
time
is he?
He's very old, but every time he's on the show, he steals the scene. He is so funny. Playing like an old-time writer for this video game. Was there a Dimitri appearance, Sophia?
Yes. Dimitri is on the fireplace mantle when
Just normal.
When the scene where he's about to read the joke article to the girls and realizes
no costume there.
It's the wrong article, just normal Dimitri.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when they come back home at the very, very end, we see Dimitri again in a black mask, like a burglar outfit.
Yes, because they are burglars. That takes us to Dimitri Sheep on Instagram, our other satellite collaborator now that we have created. This thing is growing and branching out crazy.
Okay, so Dimitri Sheep, again, an Instagram account that we love and adore. It's very new, but we love Dimitri Sheep. Let me just describe. You can head over to Instagram, Dimitri Sheep, Dimitri Sheep, all one word, and check it out for yourself. The post about this episode, the location is tagged as Chicago Loop, Michigan Avenue. Nice. I guess that's where we think the Chronicle is.
It's at Michigan and Wacker. That's the London
Michigan
house.
and Wacker, right. Oh, right. That's right. And Dimitri is looking out the window. There's a padlock hanging there. And a key on a keychain. And we can see that the vantage point is from high up of a tall building.
Dimitri, is this your apartment? Do you live downtown?
Dimitri, are you rich?
This is very
Dimitri,
fancy. Again,
so fancy.
Great job with like the things they have, around the apartment to use and work it in. And it's a challenge thinking of these for every episode. And Dimitri Sheep is up to the challenge.
Very talented. Dimitri is a very talented sheep.
Up to the challenge. I love it.
Yes. And Dimitri is looking out the window. I really hope that Dimitri is not fed up with life and has had it all and is Dimitri. Not considering jumping.
So
Don't jump,
you're
Dimitri.
A little close to the ledge there, Dimitri. Back up for me. You're making me nervous.
Back up. Let's talk about some of our favorite lines this episode. We have some Balkyisms. The spit's going to hit the fan.
That's great.
My favorite that I'm going to start saying, this is just a hunk, but...
This is just a hunk. And then a C-section joke. I was a cesarean myself. Again, I'm astonished they worked in a C-section joke. Don't be ridiculous. Not said, but we can always hear it.
Of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
Some other running gags, common things we see in this episode. We have a Meposian saying, and then
translation.
with a translation. We have your favorite, a crack at Larry having no upper lip.
I love it every time. Sorry, Mark Lynn Baker. I know it's mean, but it's fun.
We have Balky trying out American humor and then laughing at his own joke. Love it. We have Larry's buggy eyes when he has a plan and he's determined, his mischievous face. And I don't know if this is a running gag, but like Larry gaslighting Balky.
Yeah. Making Balky follow one of his plans and make Balky think he was the one at fault.
Yeah, I didn't like it. Larry. And then we have Larry's like scoffing laugh.
That's right, Balky.
So as we mentioned, this, I think the takeaway for this episode is like, it is another one of these 80s sitcoms episodes that handles a serious topic in sort of like a nice sitcom-y way. We still managed, like, it's serious where it needs to be serious. We still get some good laughs. It's not like overly, like, you don't walk away from it feeling like you just watched an after-school special or something.
Right. It's not heavy-handed, but it uses a common sitcom setup of, oh, I sent the wrong thing to the person.
Yeah.
I'm going to get fired. Now we got to break in or delete it or steal it.
To get us to this heavy, like, suicide topic.
Yeah. So it kind of it's interesting. Because even if you think about the title, the break-in, none of it alludes to, like, you're going to run into a suicide discussion.
Right. So it almost, that's what I was saying. Like, the heavy part almost was not even, like, the point of, even in the TV Guide description, it doesn't talk about it, right? It was, like, just, like, slipped in there.
No, it doesn't.
Kind of
it doesn't
kind
even
of secretly. Like this could have been very triggering actually because it wasn't in the description. You don't see it coming.
And it comes
out
of nowhere.
It reminds me of? It reminds me of. Remember that movie My Girl?
Yes, of
with
course.
Macaulay Culkin
And Anna Klumsky.
And Anna Klumsky in the
Spoiler-
90s, a little bit later. Spoiler alert! I won't say it, but like. It was not advertised as anything serious at all. I remember this because I was at that age, the demographic for this film. It was all the ads and commercials were like, oh, it's another Macaulay Culkin movie. He's a kid. He's playing with Anna Klumsky. They're in the woods. They're friends. They're hitting puberty, whatever. They're friends. And then you go to the movie and it's really heavy.
Yeah.
I don't know how much we want to give away, but Macaulay Culkin gets attacked by bees and dies, and then Anna Klumsky has to deal with the death of their children, and it's all about dealing with the death of her best friend. I was like, oh my God.
Also, her father is a what is that? He runs a morgue. He's a mortician, right? So none of this dark stuff, but I remember people kind of being mad. There are movies like that where you get mad, you're like, I had no idea I was walking into this. I didn't want to be bummed out. I thought this was going to be a fun and
so that was a bit
story.
of a tangent, but all that to say, now I'm realizing that's what this episode kind of, if you look at the TV Guide description, the title, none of it points to the triggering content, which we do realize can be triggering.
But also, it might turn people away, so they're like, we're not going to tell people it's going to happen. They
Which is not fair, but now we wouldn't have that. We would have things like trigger warnings, which we should probably put on this show, on this podcast. Given all that, now we're at the segment of our show called Perfect Strangers Today, in which we talk about if this whole story was to happen today, how would this episode be different?
Well, the first half of the show, I was thinking about, how do you submit story? We talked about working at a paper now, submitting things. There are, maybe some of you listeners have done the thing where you sent an email to the wrong person or a text to the wrong group text or to the wrong person, and then you're like...
You replied all when you didn't mean to.
Yes, or you sent an email office-wide when it was like a joke for a specific person. And so how do you... Oh my God, I have to crash the servers now. I got to get this thing. I got to steal this person's phone and erase everything. How do I undo this?
Sometimes they have read receipts and you're like, they haven't read it yet.
Oh, they haven't seen it. Yes. So
how do I unsend this?
So you combine that. This is already this is a good setup here. You combine that with the fact that breaking into office is not as easy as it was in 1987 anymore. You have cameras and sensors and check-ins and security everywhere. So you would combine all this tech and it would have to be like an elaborate, like Mission Impossible techie style break into crash the server or like run a magnet across everybody's computer so it just wipes the hard drive or something.
Or you just grab someone's laptop and throw it against the wall.
Yes, just pull all the wires
like,
and run. Yeah. Oops, I dropped it. You drop kick it. Sorry.
But then they can see it on their phones. Like this would be hard. I feel like I can't remember what show it was, but I just saw an episode of a Today Show in which someone left a voice message and then realized they didn't, like it was sent drunkenly or something. And they had to get the other person's phone and delete it before they heard it.
Well, the old version of that, the other setup you saw a lot was somebody left a cassette on the voice answering machine. And then I can't remember again. I've seen this in several shows where they sneakily flip out the tapes.
Yeah.
And make sure they don't hear it. So that happens.
But I saw that story on like a modern smartphone. I can't remember what show it was.
But sadly, the second half of the episode, I don't think that would have changed much at all. It still kind of would work today.
The second half of the episode, the heavy part.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it would be pretty similar. You're on the ledge with someone. You have to try to talk them down. You could, I was going to say you would call 911 from your smartphone, but they were already there, the cops. How did they get there anyway?
The cops?
Yeah.
They're scanning the outside of every building all the time. No, but you can do the thing where you like video chat with his family, so they like talk instead of showing pictures.
Yeah,
like the
you
old
could video chat with the family,
like, so that you can remember.
He wouldn't be showing pictures from his wallet. He'd be scrolling through his cell phone. Also for like nowadays, and maybe also in the 80s, but for people with heavy jobs like that, you have this thing about caring
counseling
for the caregivers or whatever, self-care.
Yeah.
Is a big deal now. So I feel like, in 12 years of working a crime beat, the paper or Frank would have some resources for self-care
I think about that with like homicide detectives. Like how much can you take when you are constantly every day is a different bloody crime scene? It's crazy.
I used to work in human rights. It's the same.
Yeah. That's got to get
same
to you.
Kind of thing. There's a whole thing about care for the caregivers or something like that.
It's heavy stuff, man. You need a break.
It is, it's a bit of like, third degree trauma or whatever. Anyway.
PTSD. So, he's suffering PTSD.
It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. But I feel like today there's such a big emphasis on self-care. But that's not to say people wouldn't still, I don't know. I think that part of the story would be pretty similar.
It would, I think. And that's kind of sad, but it's the truth about life. There's no Balky duds.
No Balky duds?
No, because you see Camp Anti-Gravity, which is the floating tent, is the only vest he's wearing. Nothing spectacular. But we do have a lot of shout-outs from our listeners.
Yes. As we mentioned earlier, the discussion in the Facebook group is getting really hot and detailed, and I love to see it. I love all our listeners in dialogue with each other, and, I feel like these are people who came together through their love for the show.
Absolutely. It's and everyone is like welcoming. It's a safe space. If you are looking for, and it's a very niche-y, if you're looking for a place to geek out about perfect strangers, this is the place right here, listener.
To geek out or even to like air your like half theories about little details on the show. That's what people are doing now. And so we're just going to highlight a few of them. There's so much chatter in there right now that we can't highlight all of the comments, but we've got a few. So first up, from Cousin Evelyn, they're all called cousins, by the way.
Yeah.
From Cousin
you are
Evelyn
all
Behar.
cousins. If you're listening, you are a cousin of ours.
Cousin Evelyn also and Cousin Pam both agree that Mark Lynn Baker was awesome in this episode.
Yep.
And Cousin Evelyn writes, my new take on the Cousin Larry character is that Mark Lynn Baker does a particularly good job of being both devious, manipulative, lying, while still being completely loving and lovable. I'm trying to think of another sitcom character who pulls that off, and I'm having trouble. My appreciation for Mark Lynn Baker really grows. He's very controlled as an actor and is able to play two selves really well and even simultaneously.
That is a great point, especially about being lovable, which was an important thing in the sitcoms throughout the 80s. And then if you notice, as the sitcoms, and you got to blame Seinfeld, as Seinfeld comes in, there is a wave of sitcoms about people just being horrible people to themselves, to each other, to their supposed friends. Yeah. If you think about the end of Seinfeld, these were four really just not really nice people. Like, I don't know if you'd want to be friends with them. They would sell you down the river in a second. But then you have shows like Always Sunny in Philadelphia and Workaholics, and it gets worse. Like, you get worse and worse people. So I always thought that was an interesting trend. But here in the 80s, everybody's got to be cute. You got to be lovable. You got to have a catchphrase.
Right. And we have lots of catchphrases.
Lots of catchphrases.
Cousin Evelyn also talks about something that we've already talked about. She says, this episode dealt with a serious issue in a way that was sensitive while still allowing comic relief. I'm not sure I recall many 80s shows dealing with the issue of suicide head on like this. I recall eating disorders, addiction, even child abuse, but not suicide.
Yeah.
Well done, including the part where Larry suggests that their suicidal coworker go talk to someone.
Yeah.
Very good points.
Very good points. Cousin John also reiterates that. He says, this is a fine episode, a serious topic that isn't, quote, unquote, a very special episode, which makes it more effective than most, in my opinion. The biggest disappointment will likely be that we will never see Frank again. He's only there to be saved. He's correct. We'll never see Frank again.
I feel like Frank, after getting off the ledge, got some therapy, quit his job, got something became a gardener or a baker or something, and spent time with his kids.
I was hoping somebody would be like, Frank, why don't you just write like a different section?
A novel.
Or just do fun human feature stories that are uplifting instead.
Frank starts covering all the dog shows after this.
I think he should take over the dog show.
He's so much happier.
I like to think Frank had a nice life and, got some help. And
that's another good point. That's another good thing to notice about this episode is because in the beginning, Larry's like, ugh, I can't believe I had to cover this stupid dog show. It was so dumb. I wrote this article. And he's like implying that he wants to have more serious assignments. But then we meet Frank.
Yeah, there's worse consequences to serious.
Does cover serious things and wants to jump off the building.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a statement to Larry, like, enjoy covering those dog shows. I feel like Frank would love to cover those dog shows. I think
they should switch beats for a week, Larry Appleton. See how you feel.
Larry, stop being so ungrateful, Larry.
And then we have some fun theories from our listeners based on last episode. And I know, Sophia, you remember, of course, we're talking about this line.
Can you afford it?
It's followed by the sentiment, that's all you have to say to said person. Can you afford it? Used twice so far in the series, once in season 2, once last episode. We cannot figure out what
like
this
I said
is.
earlier, to me, the way they say it, the way it set it up, it sounds like one of these cultural references from that time. So my hunk was that it was from like an 80s ad campaign or something very popular, but we couldn't find it because, of course, it's a very common phrase. It's hard to Google something like that.
Well, Cousin Pam has a hunk.
Okay.
She says, I think I hit on what Balky means when he asked Larry if he can afford it. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it can mean to bear without serious detriment. In effect, he's asking Larry if he can live with the consequences. Now, Cousin Evelyn follows up saying, I was also thinking along those lines, like, quote, you're on a precipice here, buddy. Can you afford one more slip up? It's just a strange expression. Maybe this expression got a little steam in the 80s, but never fully took off. Can you afford the emotional consequences? Look, those are good theories. It could be that because we don't know.
Yes.
At this point, anything's possible.
I still think it's from an ad campaign, but these are all very good theories to consider.
It's such an awkward, weird.
Can you afford it?
Statement and way they use it. I don't know, but I love the good theories. Thank you. Please send in more theories. And make sure you subscribe, listener, because next week, I think we're gonna have a great episode. It's one of the episodes I remember.
Yes, it's one of my favorite episodes, most memorable episodes.
Years later, the cousins do some acting, and Balky has a line in this episode where he pronounces a certain word in a certain way. I'm not going to spoil it until next week. And my whole life, I walk around repeating this one line. You know what it is, Sophia.
This is one of those episodes that if you are hardcore Perfect Strangers fans, as we all are, I know if you're listening to this and you're still with us, you are one of us. This is one of those episodes that stayed in your head as you grew up from the 80s to now.
Great physical comedy, great verbal comedy. It has everything. It's going to be great.
Very exciting.
Can't wait.
Okay, and if you are enjoying the show and if you're still with us, please let us know. You can get in touch. Visit our website, danceofjoypod.com. On that site, you can find all the links to where you can listen to the podcast, all the podcast apps, where you can subscribe, where you can like, follow, leave a rating and review. You can also find all of our social media handles there if you want to get in touch. You know, pick the one you like the best. You can find us on Facebook,
Wherever you
Twitter,
hang out.
Instagram,
Yeah.
LinkedIn. Are we on LinkedIn? We
No.
should be. You can also just send us an old school email, an electronic mail message at danceofjoypod@gmail.com. Or a voice message. There's a little button on the bottom of our website. You can just record your voice and let us know your thoughts.
And the most important thing, listener, always lift with your legs. No, wait, that's not it. Hold on. The most important thing is share the show with your Perfect Strangers buddies. Turn people on. You can stream it all on Hulu, and you can follow along episode by episode with us, as we will be doing every episode, every season of Perfect Strangers. So
until the end.
There's lots of time for you to share the show and to grow our listeners. Thank you for listening to the Dance of Joy podcast.
And now we are so happy.
Now we are so happy we do the dance of joy.
Hey, hey,